Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Thank you so much, Ravira Prabhu. Jayam Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Pravikacharya Ashtotar Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Char Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Pravikacharya Ashtotar Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namachar Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se ko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaura Pramanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga. All glories Shri Prabhupada. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Nasta Prai Subhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we'll be going over a few verses actually, beginning with chapter 8, text 25. I'll read the translation and then we'll chant text 5 of the 9th chapter. Translation. O my Lord, those whose hearts are bewildered by the influence of lust, greed, envy, and illusion, are interested only in false heart and home in this world created by your Maya. Attached to home, wife, and children, they wander in this material world perpetually. O Super Soul of all living entities, O Supreme Godhead, O Personality of Godhead, simply by seeing you, I have now been freed from all lusty desires, which are the root cause of insurmountable illusion and bondage in the material world. O King Parikshit, when Amshuman had glorified the Lord in this way, the great sage Kapila, the powerful incarnation of Vishnu, being very merciful to him, explained to him the path of knowledge. The Personality of Godhead said, My dear Amshuman, here is the animal sought by your grandfather for sacrifice. Please take it. As for your forefathers who have been burnt to ashes, they can be delivered only by Ganges water, and not by any other means. Thereafter, Amshuman circumambulated Kapila Muni and offered him respectful obeisances, bowing his head. After fully satisfying him in this way, Amshuman brought back the horse meant for sacrifice. And with this horse, Maharaj Sagara performed the remaining ritualistic ceremonies. After delivering charge of his kingdom to Amshuman, and thus being freed from all material anxiety and bondage, Sagara Maharaj, following the means instructed by Aurva Muni, achieved the supreme destination. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 9th canto, 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Sons of Sagara Meet Lord Kapila Deva. Chapter 9, the Dynasty of Amshuman. Summary. This chapter describes the history of the dynasty of Amshuman up to Kadvanga, and it also describes how Bhagirath brought the water of the Ganges to this earth. The son of Maharaj Amshuman was Dilipa, who tried to bring the Ganges to this world, but who died without success. Bhagirath, the son of Dilipa, was determined to bring the Ganges to the material world, and for this purpose he underwent severe austerities. Mother Ganges, being fully satisfied by his austerities, made herself visible to him, wanting to give him a benediction. Bhagirath then asked her to deliver his forefathers. Although Mother Ganges agreed to come down to earth, she made two conditions. First, she wanted some suitable male to be able to control her waves. Second, although all sinful men would be freed from sinful reactions by bathing in the Ganges, Mother Ganges did not want to keep all these sinful reactions. These two conditions were subject matters for consideration. Bhagirath replied to Mother Ganges, the Personality of Godhead, Lord Shiva, will be completely able to control the waves of your water. And when pure devotees bathe in your water, the sinful reactions left by sinful men will be counteracted. Bhagirath then performed austerities to perform Lord Shiva, who is called Ashutosha, because he is naturally satisfied very easily. Lord Shiva agreed to Bhagirath's proposal to check the force of the Ganges. In this way, simply by the touch of the Ganges, Bhagirath's forefathers were delivered and allowed to go to the heavenly planets. The son of Bhagirath was Shuta. The son of Shuta was Nabha, and Nabha's son was Sindhu Dwipa. The son of Sindhu Dwipa was Ayutayu, and the son of Ayutayu was Rituparna, who was a friend of Nala. Rituparna gave Nala the art of gambling and learned from him the art of Ashvavidya. The son of Rituparna was known as Sarvakama. The son of Sarvakama was Sudasa, and his son was Saudasa. The wife of Saudasa was named Damayanti or Madayati, and Saudasa was also known as Kalma Shapada. Because of some defect in his fruitive activities, Saudasa was cursed by Vasishtha to become a Rakshasa. While walking through the forest, he saw a Brahmin engaged in sex with his wife. And because he had become a Rakshasa, he wanted to devour the Brahmana, although the Brahmana's wife pleaded with him in many ways. Saudasa devoured the Brahmana, and the wife therefore cursed him, saying, "As soon as you engage in sex, you will die." After 12 years, therefore, even though Saudasa was released from the curse of Vasishtha Muni, he remained sonless. At that time, with Saudasa's permission, Vasishtha impregnated Saudasa's wife, Madhyanti. Because Madhyanti bore the child for many years but still could not give birth, Vasishtha struck her abdomen with a stone, and thus a son was born. The son was named Ashmaka. The son of Ashmaka was known as Balika. He was protected by the curse of Parashurama because of being surrounded by many women, and therefore he is also known as Nari Kavacha. When the entire world was devoid of Kshatriyas, he became the original father of more Kshatriyas. He is therefore sometimes called Mulaka. From Balika, Dashrath was born. From Dashrath came Aidavidi, and from Aidavidi came Vishvasaha. The son of Vishvasaha was Maharaj Khatvanga. Maharaj Khatvanga joined the demigods in fighting the demons and was victorious. And the demigods therefore wanted to give him a benediction. But when the king inquired how long he would live and understood that his life would last only a few seconds more, he immediately left the heavenly planets and returned to his own abode by airplane. He could understand that everything in this material world is insignificant. And thus he fully engaged in worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hari. Text 1. Shukadev Goswami continued, King Amshuman, like his grandfather, performed austerities for a very long time. Nonetheless, he could not bring the Ganges to this material world, and thereafter, in due course of time, he died. Like Amshuman himself, Dilipa, his son, was unable to bring the Ganges to this material world, and he also became a victim of death in due course of time. Then Dilipa's son, Bhagirath, performed very severe austerities to bring the Ganges to this material world. Thereafter, Mother Ganges appeared before King Bhagirath and said, I am very much satisfied with your austerities, and now am prepared to give you benedictions as you desire. Thus, being thus addressed by Ganga Devi, Mother Ganges, the king bowed his head before her and explained his desire. Purport. The king's desire was to deliver his forefathers, who had been burnt to ashes because of disrespecting Kapila Muni. Mother Ganges replied, when I fall from the sky to the surface of the planet Earth, the water will certainly be very forceful. Who will sustain that force? If I am not sustained, I shall pierce the surface of the earth and go down to Rasatala, the Patala area of the universe. Okay, text 5. Kim Chaham Na Bhavam Yasye Nara Mai Amrijanti Agaham Mrijami Tad Agam Kwaham Rajams Tatra Vichintyatam Kim Chaham Na Bhuvam Yasye Naramayam Rijant Yagam Mijami Tad Agam Kwaham Rajam statra vichintyatam. Kim chaham na bhuvam yasye. Naramayam rijant yagam. Mijamitadagam kwaham. Rajam statra vichintyatam. Kim chaham na vibhum bhuvam yasye. Naramayamri janyagam. Mijamitadagam kwaham. Rajam statra vichintyatam. Rajam tatra vichintyatam. Thank you, Balaram. Anyone else? Sukhanto Prabhu. Kim chaham na bhuvam yasye. Kwaham. Rajam stantra vichintyatam. Matajis. Anyone online would like to chant? Okay. Kimcha, also. Aham, I. Na, not. Bhuvam, to the planet Earth. Yasye, shall go. Naraha, the people in general. Mai, in me, in my water. Amri janti, cleanse. Agam, the reactions of their sinful activity. Mijami, I shall wash. Tat, that. Agam, accumulation of sinful reactions. Qua, unto whom? Aham, I. Rajan, O king. Tatra, on this fact. Vichintya tam, please consider carefully and decide. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O king, I do not wish to go down to the planet Earth, for there the people in general will bathe in my water to cleanse themselves of the reactions of their sinful deeds. When all these sinful reactions accumulate in me, how shall I become free from them? You must consider this very carefully. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead says, Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayashyami ma suchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 66. The Supreme Personality of Godhead can accept the reactions of anyone's sinful deeds and neutralize them because He is pavitra, pure, like the sun, which is never contaminated by any worldly infection. Te jiyasam na doshaya vanehe sarva bhujo yatha. Bhagavatam 10:33-29. One who is very powerful is not affected by any sinful activity. But here we see that Mother Ganges fears being burdened with the sins of the people in general who would bathe in her waters. This indicates that no one but the Supreme Personality of Godhead is able to neutralize the reactions of sinful deeds, whether one's own or those of others. Sometimes a spiritual master, after accepting a disciple, must take charge of that disciple's past sinful activities, and being overloaded, must sometimes suffer, if not fully, then partially, for the sinful acts of the disciple. Every disciple, therefore, must be very careful not to commit sinful activities after initiation. The poor spiritual master is kind and merciful enough to accept a disciple and partially suffer for that disciple's sinful activities. But Krishna, being merciful to his servant, neutralizes the reactions of sinful deeds for the servant who engages in preaching his glories. Even Mother Ganges feared the sinful reactions of the people in general and was anxious about how she would counteract the burden of these sins. Om Agyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaisnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamsha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Pre Vancha Kalpatri Bhischa Kripasani Bevacha Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnabhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. What does every father want? A competent son. So there's so much stress on the duties and the importance of having a competent son. But the question is, competent in what? To be able to carry out the family business nicely. You see here also in America, sometimes you'll see the name of the business, Sureshwar and Sons. Sukanto and Sons, like that. In Loy Bazaar, you'll see it there. Are they competent to be more successful than the father? There's a lot of pressure now on the children to be able to fulfill the parents' dream or goals that they themselves were able to accomplish. I meet students and when I ask them, what do you hope to do in the future? And a few of them have said, I'm going to take over my father's business. And I asked them, besides that, do you have any goals? And they just, I guess they weren't taught to have any other goals besides carrying the family business. I was on a walk with Ramapati Prabhu after Sankirtan, and I asked him a very stupid question. I said, what did your parents want you to be when you grow up, when you grow up? And I asked him, a doctor. He looked at me. He said, they wanted me to be a pure devotee or Srimati Radharani. I was thinking, wow, that's a good answer, But most people in this world, their parents want them to be a successful engineer, doctor, scientist. But a son, Srila Prabhupada explains, that there's a hell called Put. The father suffers in this hellish condition. And a son who can deliver his father from this hellish condition is called a Putra. Rishabhadev, he says that one who cannot deliver his dependence from this samsara cycle of birth and death should not become a father, a spiritual master, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod. So there's a lot of stress on being competent to be able to save one's family. After the pastime of Prahlad Maharaj and Nrsimhadev, everyone tried to approach Nrsimhadev, the demigods, and they pushed Lakshmi. And she said, I don't even recognize this person, you know. I haven't seen my husband in this form. So Lord Brahma came, and Lord Nrsimhadev, he was still very angry, this mood. So then they pushed Prahlad Maharaj. And Prahlad Maharaj, he was a little afraid, but he still approached Lord Nrsimhadev. And as soon as he offered his wonderful prayers, Lord Nrsimhadev was pacified. And just like a good son, Prahlad Maharaj said, please excuse my father for his offenses. And Lord Nrsimhadev, he told them, not only is your father excused, but how many generations? What did you say? 14? Okay. Yeah. I heard it's 21, and I read 21. So it said 21 generations already delivered or liberated. Before I moved into the temple, I was thinking, what is a good reason to move into the temple, you know? I mean, I was convinced already that this was the highest welfare work for people. But also I wanted to do something for my parents. So when I told my mom, I said, I'm doing this for you guys. So whatever sincere service I've done for Krishna, the devotees, I hope my parents can get something out of it. She said, what are you talking about? You know, I just left. Srila Prabhupada explained that there's so many learned persons around the world. Just like I was saying, when I ask people, especially on college campuses, what are you studying? A lot of them will say, I'm studying engineering, psychology, science. I want to become a doctor. So people go to colleges and universities to be expert in this type of material knowledge. But if someone wants to learn something beyond this material world, they need to take instruction from Krishna and his representatives. Srila Prabhupada was giving a class, and he started off with this question. What is that thing that is both living and dead? And he said, the body. Because this lecture, it was about Arjuna arguing with Krishna. So many things based on the Vedas, welfare work for the world. But Krishna chastised Arjuna right away. He said, you're speaking like a learned person, but you're mourning for something that is not worthy of grief. The wise, they don't lament for the living nor for the dead. So Srila Prabhupada, he was explaining that this body is both living and dead. Srila Prabhupada made that famous comment or statement that knowledge, real knowledge, means to know what is the difference between matter and spirit, and not only that, but the owner of both. But when you ask these learned persons, you know, this question, what is the difference between a living body and a dead body? They really don't know. They start speculating. Devavrata Prabhu, he was here, and he was giving class. And he was telling us one of his lines. And that line was, what makes the body beautiful? You know, people are very bodily conscious. So he asked this question, what makes the body beautiful? You know, and they would say, oh, a person's personality. But then Devavrata Prabhu would cut to the chase and say, it's actually the soul. The soul is what makes the body beautiful. And the body, it's actually a dead lump of matter. Guru Kṛṣṇa and Yamunapati Prabhu, they were upstairs. And Guru Kṛṣṇa Prabhu, he had to shift his weight to one side to test if the, what do you call that, Bor? Benches. And they said, oh, I got to shift this bag of stew. So that's what the body is. But yet people don't know the value of the soul in the body. As soon as the soul leaves the body, then it stops moving. The pretty woman stops talking. The handsome man stops giving you compliments. I was telling our Bhakti Joe the story of liquid beauty, and he finally got it. So Amshuman, he's saying those whose hearts are bewildered by the influence of lust, greed and envy and illusion are interested only in false heart and home in this world created by your Maya. Attached to home, wife and children, they wander in this material world perpetually. This if I read this, I would think, what is wrong with, being attached to my home, my wife and children? But then they also don't know the concept of karma and reincarnation. And whatever the person's thought at the time of death, that will determine his next life, his next body. So when Kapila Dev, when he became merciful, he explained the path of knowledge. And so Kapila Dev gave him the horse to continue this ritualistic sacrifice. And Amshuman was given the kingdom, and Sagar Maharaj, he attained the supreme destination. And Amshuman, he was trying very hard to bring the Ganges back to this material world, but he failed. So the devotees can give real help to the conditioned souls, trying to. It says that Shudras and outcasts are commonly considered fallen, and men who are poor and hungry are usually identified as wretched. But the real criteria of a person's fallen, wretched condition is his lack of devotion to the Supreme Lord. So this is the standard of how we can categorize the different types of people. How much devotion do they have for Krishna? And Krishna consciousness is such a wonderful process that you don't need a lot of money to please Krishna. You don't need to be actually, Kunti Devi, she says these are actually the disqualifications. A good birth, beauty, wealth, and knowledge, they prevent one from chanting the holy name with feelings sincerely. And the kings, they also had their duties to perform. He says that a sure sign of a ruler's virtue is the good qualities of his subjects. And if we look at the world today, how are the qualities of the people? How are the values that they have in their lives? So the leaders, they need to be given a Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. I grew up in the West, so I had no ideas about, this whole bathing in the Ganges, how to get rid of your sinful reactions. So you can imagine how many people want to take advantage of this. And that's why Ganga Devi, she doesn't want to be, that's one of their conditions, is that she didn't want to have all the full reactions. So Bhagirata, he said, the pure devotees will bathe in your waters and they will counteract the reactions. In the Varaha Purana, it mentions something interesting. It glorifies Mathura. It says the reaction from a sin committed elsewhere can be dissolved when one visits a holy place of pilgrimage. Whereas a sin committed at such a holy tirtha becomes an irremovable diamond hard shell to cover the sinner. But the reaction from a sin committed in Mathura can be done away with in Mathura itself. Mathura is therefore the most auspicious of holy cities, where sinful reactions do not persist. Another lesson that I got from reading this is that the performance of austerity sacrifice must be done to please great personalities. In the Bhagavad Gita, he explains, Krishna, that work done has to be a sacrifice for Vishnu. Otherwise, work binds one to this material world. And if we perform our duties, the demigods will be pleased, and then they give us everything that we need to live happily. But the problem with today's society is that hardly a few are willing to accept austerities for the sake of others. Everyone's very self-centered. Everyone's answer begins with I, I want this, I want that. So I'll end with this. So it was mentioning how a spiritual master, accepting the disciple, must sometimes suffer for the sinful acts of the disciple. But Krishna is so merciful to his servant that he neutralizes these reactions. Srila Prabhupada, he says that the spiritual master has a right to chastise his disciples for them to go in the right direction. And if we cannot handle chastisement and corrections, we have no right to be so-called disciples. Sometimes devotees become too familiar with one another, and then there is offenses, aparads. But then it's not just aparads, but Vaishnava aparads. And that's the first offense to be avoided when trying to chant the holy name purely. Balaram Prabhu, he got the 6 Goswamis printed, and we installed them yesterday in the Brahmacharya ashram with the help of Yamunapati Prabhu and Dvijamani Prabhu. So they're hanging there. And it's a very nice, wonderful reminder of who our acharyas are and where we get our knowledge from. And why am I mentioning this? Because out of the 6 Goswamis, Sanatana Goswami, he's a great example. Using the money left by Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami bribed the jailkeeper and released from prison. He then headed to join Rupa Goswami in Vrindavan. And overcoming various difficulties, he arrived disheveled and travel-worn at Benares, where he learned that Lord Chaitanya was staying at the house of a devotee named Chandrasekhar. Sanatana Goswami found his way to Chandrasekhar's door and sat down, not daring to ask to be allowed inside. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he knew without being told that Sanatana Goswami had arrived and requested Chandrasekhar to invite him into the house, the saintly Vaishnava waiting at the door. And Chandrasekhar, he looked outside, but he only saw what he thought to be a dirty Muslim beggar. And Lord Chaitanya sent him back out again and said, "Bring this beggar in." And Lord Chaitanya embraced Sanatana Goswami like a lost son. So, and Sanatana Goswami, he would circumambulate Govardhan Hill, even in his old age. So unable to tolerate Sanatana Goswami's austerities, Krishna appeared to him in person and gave him a shalagram shila of Govardhan with his own footprint. And Krishna asked Sanatana Goswami to simply walk around the shila daily, and that would be equal to circumambulating the whole hill. In the Chaitanya Chandrodaya, it says, Sri Sanatan, Sri Rupa's elder brother, was a priced jewel of the court of the king of Gauda. Yes, Sanatan Goswami gave up his fabulous wealth and power to accept the youthful goddess of renunciation. Although his heart was filled with ecstatic taste of devotion, he externally appeared like an outcast mendicant. So Sanatana Goswami passed away at Manasi Ganga, and Sanatan's nephew, Sanatana Goswami's nephew, Jiva Goswami, he took his remains to Vrindavan and installed the Samadhi there at the Madan Mohan temple. So these wonderful personalities, they would always remain humble and ready to serve other devotees. When after Parikshit Maharaj, he was told the Bhagavatam, he was preparing for the snake bird. He was preparing for his death. And his mother, Uttara, she came before him. And she said, tell me the essence. She knew that she didn't have a lot of time left. So she said, please tell me the essence of the teachings of Shukadeva Goswami. Just like a farmer, he grows a lot of sugar cane, but the essence of the sugar cane juice. And it says, just like the demigods and the demons, they were churning the ocean of milk, but many unwanted things came out, but the essence was the nectar. So Parikshit Maharaj, he said, Mother, at a time like this, one should observe silence, when one is on the verge of death. But he said, but your delightful question impels me to speak. So Parikshit Maharaj, he explains that Narada Muni was looking for who is that candidate or who is that recipient of Krishna's mercy. So he told that there's once these sages at Prayag, Brahmanas. And the head of the Brahmana, he was very humble. He would serve the other Brahmins. And how should I put this? He says, one class of Brahmanas like to display their knowledge by defeating others in an argument. But another class of Brahmanas, the pure Vaishnavas, prefer to use their energy to hear and chant about Krishna. But a Vaishnava bothers to engage in debate only if the cause of Krishna consciousness can be advanced, when criticism of another Vaishnava or the Supreme Lord have to be answered, or when victims of misconceptions have to be saved. So these sages were very humble servants of Krishna, and each of them disliked hearing himself praise and was trying to divert the praise to someone else. And they honestly appreciated and thought that another had good qualities. So when the Vaishnavas are friendly to one another like this, the community prospers. Okay, that's all I have. Any questions or comments? Thank you, Sukanta Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. I was thinking about what you said about hearth and home being like really dear to people and people don't want to give it up. And it reminded me that in Sunday school a few weeks ago, we were talking about Srila Prabhupada's life. And I was telling the kids, they were, I guess, between 9 and 12 or something like that, about how Srila Prabhupada left his family. He took sannyas and he came to the West and, and made all this. And we wouldn't have any of this if he hadn't left. And one girl in particular was really upset. She was really just like, she was like, but he left his family. It's like, yeah, but if he hadn't, then we wouldn't have all this. She's really couldn't. And I said, like, we don't really have time to get fully into this right now. We'll need to pick it up next week. And she never came back. So I'm just wondering if, do you have a short version that you say to people? Because I feel like this is something that people find really, really difficult.
Well, I like to answer with something they can understand, You said she was very young? 11. Okay. Well, I would say something like Srila Prabhupada had to sacrifice something little for something bigger, Like the example is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He left his old mother and a beautiful wife for the sake of the whole world, So that's what I would say. But of course, she might be very sensitive because she loves her mom, and So for a short, simple answer, I would say something like that, that he had to do this in order for others to benefit, But if he didn't, then he would, just remain in Vrindavan. Balaram Prabhu, you have something to say? And then Dravida Prabhu.
Do you think you could read that from the Vraha Prana again, the diamond thing?
It says the reaction of a sin committed elsewhere can be dissolved when one visits a holy place of pilgrimage, whereas a sin committed at such a holy tirtha creates an irremovable diamond hard shell to cover the sinner. But the reaction from a sin committed in Mathura can be done away with in Mathura itself. Mathura is therefore the most auspicious of holy cities, where sinful reactions do not persist. I think living in Mathura is also one of the top 3 potent things for devotional service. Yes, Dravida Prabhu?
Yeah, I was thinking about that because, even Srila Prabhupada faced that. I mean, when he took sannyas, when he left his whole, his family and his job, his business and everything. So, but I think that maybe people could relate to it more if they realize that, those who see through the eyes of Shastra what's really going on, there is it's like a war, when a war is going on and there's danger to like a whole country, then even people who are married, they may be young men in their early 20s or something, they just started a home or whatever, maybe 30, 40. And so they join the military. It's a sacrifice for that. Or if they're drafted, it's not, of course it may be disappointing to the family and so forth, but they understand there's a conflagration. It's just like a fire burning. You have to go out and risk your life in order to fix it. So I think it's like that. And Srila Prabhupada also, he didn't take sannyas right away when his spiritual master encouraged him to do it. He felt he was horrified and all this and that, But he got, dreams from his spiritual master. Rupa Goswami appeared to him. Of course, that was after he had taken sannyas. But the point is that, when Srila Prabhupada saw the urgency of it, worldwide, I mean, the whole world is burning, and he saw that he had the blessing of a spiritual master and Lord Chaitanya to actually try this thing, and so he left his family. And I heard, I don't know, it was in the last few months, one of his children, grown up of course by now, said it was very hard for us, when that happened. Yeah. And even anyway, I won't go into that. But I think it is difficult, and I think it's more difficult for women to understand because they're kind of hearth and home. They're really maintaining everything. They're raising the children, having the children. They've already sacrificed, and they depend so much on the man, for support and financial support. Mm-hmm. But it's just the higher calling. The whole humanity is suffering, and so you obey it.
And I was just thinking right now, maybe you could have explained how his family life was not. It became unfavorable, Oh
yeah, we did.
Okay.
We did, and unfortunately, I brought.
Can you? I'm sorry. Can you?
Yeah. Unfortunately, we brought up the whole tea or me situation about how they were and like selling his things and tea or me, and her comment was, "Why can't you drink tea? What's wrong with tea?" So it was
Yeah.
It kind of
Yeah. So the little ones, they have that child mentality still, So, yeah, we just need to have patience with them, and then eventually with the proper time and place, they'll be able to understand why Srila Prabhupada sacrificed that for all of us, you know.
I really liked Ravida Prabhu's comment about the war thing, though, about how urgent it is, because we can easily forget that it's, you know, that it is actually a war and a fire.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.